Shalom, guys. Today is kind of a special day. I'm going to give you a little throwback here today. I know that all the world around us today is celebrating a pagan holiday, and yet for me, today is kind of a special day because today was the day 8 years ago that I published my first piece. You could say that I came out of the closet. This was the day, December 25th, 2014, when I first published a piece that was beginning to explain some of the things I was seeing in Scripture that were inconsistent with regards to traditional marriage and what is taught in the church. And this article was a barn burner that blew a whole bunch of things up and got a whole bunch of people excited. No, not really. But anyway, as I was sitting here reminiscing and looking back at this, I stumbled across an old video that I made. And so if you want to see this article, go to notsob.com. And if you look in the biblical marriage section right here, you click on biblical marriage and scroll down the page of biblical marriage where it lays out a lot of things that I've learned over the years. You come down about fairly early. Marriage, Adultery, and Christian Error is the first of two articles that I wrote that really kind of blew things up and got me in some hot water. But this right here, you'll enjoy this. But what I want to do today is I want to go to a throwback. In the process of looking at this article, I discovered also a video. The first video that I made that I went public, I actually made it for another ministry or a group that I've fellowship with, biblicalfamilies.org, and put it up on a YouTube channel there. It didn't see a lot of traffic, I don't think. I haven't gone over to check numbers recently. But in discovering the original video, I want to share it with you guys as a throwback. A lot of good information in this. However, my videography skills are not very good, to say the least, at this point. And 8 years ago, or probably 6 years ago when I made this, it was not. They were far worse. But the information contained in this video, I was reminded of a couple really neat things that we need to go back and talk about. We need to spend some time looking at Hera and Juno and the goddesses of monogamy and marriage from the Greco-Roman pagan religions. We need to go back and look at that because some of that is discussed here. A lot of good information. Another thing that makes this video particularly interesting is that I just did a video on Dr. Peter Gentry, and a professor of Old Testament interpretation, and was kind of playing off their question, why does God allow polygyny? I think he says polygyny, he might say polygamy. Anyway, the presupposition for him in that is, of course, that it's wrong, but God allowed it. Well, the fact is, God did allow it and continues to allow it. And this video that I'm putting up right now explores in some detail why. The reality, the real reason why polygyny is allowed in Scripture and why it is righteous. So enjoy this video. It's a throwback. I apologize for the videography and everything else. It's like taking a trip in the time machine with Pete Rambo. But I think that you'll get a lot out of this, and it's a good one. It's worth sharing. So y'all have a good one, absolutely, and enjoy this. I look forward to your comments. Make sure that you like, share, subscribe. Comment below. I'll also put some of the resources links in the comments below so that you can have access to those or be able to grab those, go visit, share, etc. So absolutely, shalom, shalom, and thank you for being with us on this journey.
In this video, we're going to consider why did God allow polygamy. It is interesting to note that over the last several years, there has been a growing interest in polygamy in general, and specifically what the Bible says. We see multiple reality TV shows portraying the good, the bad, and the ugly sides of polygamy, while there is a growing abundance of YouTube videos broaching the topic both for and against. For our purposes, we are not going to debate the validity of polygamy in this video. The very simple fact is that God never condemns the practice in Scripture, and there are multiple places wherein He blesses and even calls righteous numerous men who had more than one wife. Hebrews chapter 11 lists Abraham, Jacob, Moses, Gideon, and David among those righteous men of old who had multiple brides. According to multiple ancient sources, Josephus being one, Judaism during the time of Christ had so many polygamists that it was considered a common mark of the Jewish man. The early Christian church had many polygamists until around the 300s when non-Jewish bishops began to speak against it. Still, it was not until the 1200s when the Roman Catholic Church ruled against polygamy with the death penalty, while Judaism only outlawed polygamy in the 1020s. Interestingly, Martin Luther wrote in favor of polygamy to Prince Philip Hesse regarding his wife Catherine and lover Margaret, declaring that marrying both was more righteous than divorcing one to marry the other. Without question, Scripture supports polygamy as one option for a family structure. But why? Why would God allow, or better stated, why would God regulate polygamy as perfectly righteous and legal within certain boundaries? To answer the question, we need to understand a couple things about history, sexual promiscuity and practices, as well as the relative unchanging ratio between marriageable men and marriageable women throughout time and cultures. Let's begin with the ratio of men and women. Girls and boys are born at about a 50-50 ratio in every place and time on earth, with very rare exception. But in every place and time on earth, with only short-term anomalies, the ratio has changed quite a bit by the marriageable years. Throughout history, the numbers play out almost identically. By marriageable age, girls outnumber boys by a ratio of about 1.2 to 1. As the group ages, the spread widens to a female-to-male ratio closer to 1.3 to 1. This disparity happens for various reasons fairly common to every culture and place. Infant mortality in boys is higher. Boys do more dangerous things that lead to incapacitation or to early death. Boys go off to war. As they get older, boys or young men work harder and perform more dangerous labor, again leading to a higher death rate in every age category. Other contributors that exacerbate the difference in number include men who are incarcerated, choose bachelorhood, or are homosexual. The simple fact is that despite being born at the same rate, boys die sooner and faster or make themselves unavailable, leaving an ever-decreasing pool of marriageable candidates for the ladies. This information will be very important in a minute, but let us look at the two marriage options and where they originate. As we have already stated, Scripture does not ever condemn polygamy. In fact, Scripture never mandates monogamy. Rather, a clear and proper understanding of Scripture demonstrates that God allows and blesses marriage. It does not matter whether it is monogamous or polygamous. God's only concern in Scripture is that the marriage covenant between a man and each of his wives, whether one or more, not be broken. Simply, He hates divorce. In God's economy, a woman is to be valued, protected, and cherished forever. The other marriage structure, usually presented as the ideal, is monogamy only. It is very important to note that God never commands monogamy only. The monogamy only idea comes out of Greek law dating more than 500 years before Christ. The Greek culture valued monogamy highly and codified it as law. However, divorce, promiscuity, mistresses, and temple prostitutes were socially acceptable. The Greeks' chief goddess Hera, the Queen of Heaven, was the jealous, vindictive, and hateful consort of Zeus. She was also known as the goddess of marriage and monogamy. Roman culture absorbed the Greek standard in their goddess Juno, the consort of Jupiter. Divorce, temple prostitution, and mistresses were culturally allowed, but oddly, polygamy was punishable with grave consequences, and the Jews alone were allowed to be polygamous in the Roman Empire. The Church, through Roman bishop influence and decreasing connection to the Jewish root, adopted the Roman position on marriage, instituting and enforcing a policy of monogamy only, contrary to the allowance of Scripture. But why would God allow polygamy? Did he have good reason? What might his purposes have been? Might those purposes still apply today? Let's take these pieces and put them together. As previously explained, the birth rate ratio is very close to equal. We have an equal number of boys and girls at birth. From the very beginning, disparity in the number of females to males begins to grow for multiple previously explained reasons. By the mid-20s, girls outnumber the boys by a ratio of 1.2 to 1. The game of marriage musical chairs begins, and it's clear from the start there are going to be some losers. And the numbers get even more out of sync as we head into the midlife ages of 40 to 50. Men die younger, often leaving a widow and children. The gap between available women and available men increases further to about 1.3 to 1. While censuses and other data will validate these findings, one has only to visit 10 or 15 random churches and take account of how many single women there are compared to how many single men. The ratio is even more pronounced for the woman who desires a godly husband. The numbers are decidedly out of balance. Unfortunately, the church has chosen to follow the Greek monogamy-only model of marriage. Because this is not biblical, we hear it referred to as traditional marriage. The Greek model is a broken model that benefited the promiscuous Greek temple culture. Men would have a single wife by law, but could participate in various activities that Scripture roundly condemns. But it was a monogamous culture. It is women who are the victims here. They are created with innate desires for love, security, and protection. Men likewise are inborn with a need to provide these things, and all of that is easily twisted through natural passion. God's economy is different. God's law allows a man to have more than one wife. Therefore, all needs and passions can be met in both women and men without sinful promiscuity and partner swapping. All relationships are covenant-keeping relationships that last until death, just as God originally designed. So which model does the church look like? And which model does Scripture promote? Which model values women best? And which model best solves problems in society and the church today? So here we see the first of several reasons that God allowed polygamy within certain guidelines. All women can be valued and have a place of belonging. Some might suggest that God's model is demeaning or devaluing to women. However, precisely the opposite is true. Instead of women being forced to control and ignore her God-given passions and desires while hunting the male leftovers for a suitable mate, she is now empowered with choices. She has no longer lost the game of marriage, musical chairs. Instead, she has the power of choice. She can search among all males, married or single, to find a suitable provider that is a proven and godly leader. She can consider what family she will best fit into, where she will be an asset. So the second reason we see that God allowed polygamy is that women are valued and have choices. A single woman is empowered. Because most of Western Christianity has been reared in a monogamy-only culture, we have learned and accepted the ways of the pagan goddess Hera, the Queen of Heaven. She was jealous and vindictive in her protection of her man, traits often seen and even justified in Christian circles. Yet neither trait is God-honoring or listed anywhere as a positive character trait. In fact, jealousy, as played out by a woman, is anything but God-honoring. A further emotion that rears an ugly head is insecurity. Because women in a monogamy-only culture are expected to be the be-all, do-all for their man, they fall victim to serious insecurities when they realize that they cannot, and they are not. Is it possible that polygamy, when rightly entered into and learned, can be God-honoring? The answer is a resounding yes. Instead of competing as women were not designed to do, they can complement each other as helpers in a home that has an expanding vision under the headship of the husband. Jealousy, pride, and anger must be delivered up to the Almighty as He, by His Spirit, begins to use the circumstances to remove impurities and to grow all participants more and more into the image of Christ. Men grow as well in areas of leadership, both physical and spiritual. They also grow in balance, control, love, and patience. So a third reason for God to allow polygamy is to have a crucible in which He can grow the participants in areas they are not so nearly challenged in the world's monogamy-only system. All participants have greater spiritual growth. The last and most obvious lesson that God teaches through polygamy is how He relates to the body. In both Jeremiah 4 and Ezekiel 23, God describes Himself as having two brides. Jesus teaches of Himself, the bridegroom coming for the 10 virgins, but only 5 entering in, while the book of Revelation clearly talks about 7 different churches. Does monogamy only really teach us about how Christ loves the church? Or do we get a much clearer picture when we understand that Christ is head of man and man is head of woman? Then we see the one-to-many example really played out and understood in the way Paul uses the illustration. The fourth reason God allows polygamy is as a terrific image of His relationship with His people and how He takes care of many with differing needs and wants. Both participants and non-participants all see living examples of God and Christ's relationship with mankind. To return to our original question, why did God allow polygamy? Here we have presented 4 good reasons why. All women can be valued and have a safe place of love and belonging. Women are empowered and given choices. Polygamy is a crucible in which God grows all participants unlike anything in monogamy only. Polygamy physically represents His relationship with many and how He loves and cares for each and all. We thank you for watching and encourage you to study out this truth from Scripture. We have provided a list of resources worthy of your time. We do hope that this video has helped with considering reasons why God allowed polygamy as a righteous, God-honoring option for marriage and family structure. Here is a closing thought.